Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Muhammad Abu Bakr, and in this video we shall be solving the Cambridge O-level physics question paper 11, May June 2022. Question paper 11 from the May June 2022 examination series. Paper 1 of multiple choice questions only. So let's start our video. So question number 1 is a length of copper wire is labeled length is 0.50 meters and a diameter is 0.50 millimeters. So which instruments are most suitable to accurately measure the length and the diameter of the wire here? Now he has measured the length in 0.50 meters. So whereas a vernier caliper has a least count of 0.01 millimeter or centimeters, I guess, but a meter rule would be helpful here. A meter rule would work, whereas the diameter is in 0.50 millimeters. So he will definitely use a micrometer screw gauge to measure the length of copper wire. So B would be the right choice. Question number 2. A driver drives a car at uniform velocity along a road. The driver sees a hazard and applies the brakes. What is the car's motion as it moves through the thinking distance and as it moves through the braking distance? Now the motion, now he is the first thing is that the driver is driving the car at a uniform velocity initially. Now, the motion through the thinking distance will never be deceleration. It is not a reflex. If it was a reflex, then the car would have decelerated, of course, but it is not a reflex. He has gone through a thinking phase. So during the thinking phase, the motion was uniform velocity, definitely. Whereas, as he applies the brakes, he will definitely decelerate. The car will retard its motion. So C would be the best choice. Question number 3, an easy question. The diagram represents the moon in its orbit around the earth. Which arrow represents the direction of the resultant force acting on the moon at the instant shown? Now this on the moon here is moving in a circular track around the earth, means that it experiences the centripetal force, which is Fc is equal to mv square over r. So the direction of resultant force is always towards the center of the circular track. So A is the right option. The mass m of an object is related to its weight and gravitational field strength G. Which equation shows the relationship? So generally we know weight is equal to mg. So simply weight divided by g is equal to m. So that means B is the right option. A plastic cube of density P of density rho is compressed so that each of its sides becomes one half of its original length. What is the new density of the material of the cube? So first thing is that density is inversely proportional to volume. Now the each side is being compressed so that it each of its sides becomes one half of its original length. So it is a cylinder. First thing is that sorry, it is a cube. So we will take volume in cubes. Now if this factor reduces by if this factor reduces by 8 this factor reduces by 8, then density would increase by 8. Density would increase by 8. So that means D is the right option because it's a cube. The volume is in volume is in cube, and each side becomes one half. So that is one half into one half into one half, 1/8. The total volume becomes 1/8, and we know that this sorry this density is inversely proportional to volume. So I will simply multiply 8 with rho, which is density. So the new density of the material of the cube will be 8 of its 8 times of its original value. So D is the right option. Four glasses, four glass objects have square bases of equal area. Which object is least stable? Now I can see clearly A is most stable because it has the center of mass here and it is a uniform solid. Similarly, D is also much stable. I think D is more stable, but I'm not sure. Among B and C, the object which has a greater base area is more stable. Mind my writing, which has a greater base area is more stable. B has a greater base area than C, whereas their center of mass is approximately at the same position. So C would be the right option. The initial pressure of a volume V1, question number 7. The initial pressure of a volume V1 of a fixed mass of a gas is P1. The gas expands at constant temperature until it has a volume V2 and pressure P2. Which statement about the pressure and the volume of the gas is not correct? So we have to find the wrong statement. Pressure is measured in newtons per meter cube. No. Pressure is measured in newtons per meter square. So A would be the right answer. Pressure multiplied by volume is constant. Yes, P1, V1 is equal to K. Pressure is directly proportional to inverse of volume. This is also true. The ratio of V1 to V2 is equal to the ratio of P2 to P1. This is also true. So A is the right option. A stone falls at terminal velocity in the air. What is the change? So what is equal to the change in gravitational potential energy of the stone? Now, the first thing is that this stone is falling at terminal velocity in air, so it must have experienced air resistance. It must have experienced air resistance, and when the work is done against air resistance, heat is produced. Remember this. Heat is produced, and this heat is produced as a change. This heat produced is equal to the change in gravitational potential energy. This is equal to the change in gravitational potential energy, the heat produced due to friction. So the option D, the thermal energy produced, would be the right option. The friction between the stone and the air, no. The friction is, there is friction between stone and the air, but it is not equal to the change in gravitational potential energy. Due to the friction, the energy produced is equal to the change in gravitational potential energy. The change in kinetic energy, no. The change in temperature of the stone, no. So D is the best choice. Question number 9. Water in a river is used to turn a turbine as the water flows downstream. How is this type of power source described? So water in a river is used to turn a turbine, so it is definitely hydroelectric, not tidal, not geothermal, not nuclear, obviously. So A is the right option. A load is pulled by a rope attached to a motor. The resultant force exerted by the rope on the load is shown in the diagrams. In each diagram, the load moves in the direction of the force shown and takes 10 seconds to travel 1 meter. In which diagram does the motor work with the greatest power? So, greatest power means in which the greatest energy is utilized, greatest work is done. So, work is simply F times S. So, this is 1, whereas this is 12. So, in A it would be 12 joules. In B it would be 8. It would be 8. B would be, I cannot define the motion of B because, so it, no, sorry, it moves 1 meter up, but there is not any surface where it initially was. So I think this is a false statement, but still we can write 8 multiply 1 is equal to 8 joules. As in C, I can see it is moving up a ramp 1 joule or 1 meter, so 10 into 1. Friction is constant. Friction is constant for friction is same for A, B and A, C and D. Friction is same for A, C and D. Whereas D is moving 4 Newton down, 4 Newton down, so it would have done a work of 4 joules. So the work is equal to Fs is greatest in A. So that means I had to go with A as the best choice. The total energy incident in 1 second on a group of solar panels is 120 joules per meter square. So the group of solar panel converts 720 joules of light energy to 120 joules of useful electrical energy in 1 second. So what is the total surface area of the panels and what is the efficiency of the system? So first of all, I will find out efficiency, which is the output power given over the total power given in as output input multiply 100. So the power in an output is 120 and I divide this by 720. I multiply this by 100. So that is approximately 17%. Now the group of solar panels converts 720 joules of light energy. It absorbs 720 joules of light energy, whereas the total surface area on a group of solar panels is 1 uh, absorbing energy is 120 joules per meter square. So there would be a total of 120 times 6, so that equals 720. So that equals 720. The total surface area of solar panels would be 6 meters square. So A would be the right choice. A 1000 watt to 40 volt electrical device is switched on. How much energy does it use in 5 minutes? Now the general formula for calculating energy is E is equal to QV. Now Q is equal to Q is equal to IT, which is the current into time into the voltage. So I can write it is VI into T. This VI is equal to the power multiplied time of utility. So simply if I multiply 1000 watts with 5 minutes, so how much energy does it use in 5 minutes? So I will take 5 minutes as such. So that means A would be the right option. No, sorry. I won't take 5 minutes as such. Sorry. I won't take 5 minutes as such. Each minute contains 60 seconds. So I will have to multiply 1000 with 5 and then with 60 seconds. So that is 3 lakh joules. So 3 lakh joules would be the total energy utilized in 5 minutes, that is 300 seconds. I forgot to convert minutes into seconds, sorry. So D is the right option. A building has walls made from wood and steel. What describes the way in which the thermal energy is transferred through the walls? Now this house is made from the walls of woods and steel. So conduction through the wood will never take place. Wood is not a good conductor. Conduction through the metal by both the vibration of particles and the movement of electrons through the steel. Yes, this is true. Conduction through the wood, again this will not take place. Convection through the metal will not take place. So only B is true here. B is true because it satisfies our concepts that conduction to the metal takes place either by vibration of particles or either by the movement of electrons through the steel. So B is the right option. Question number 14. A liquid column in liquid in glass thermometer is 2 centimeters long at 0 degree C. The column expands by 10 centimeters when heated to 100 degrees C. So measuring from this point P, how long is the liquid at 30 degrees C? So I will do here just simple comparison that if the column expands by 10 centimeters when heated to 100 degrees C, if it expands by 10 centimeter when heated to 100 degrees C, so it will expand by 3 centimeter when the temperature is given of 30 degrees C. So when 30 degrees C temperature is given, it expands by 3 centimeters here. So initially at point P, when the temperature was 0, the length of the liquid is already 2 centimeters. So I will add 3 to get the total value of 5, which is something here or here, I guess. So 5 is true. So measuring from P, the liquid is 5 centimeters long at 30 degrees C. So C is the best choice. In many applications, a thermocouple is used to measure temperature instead of a liquid in glass thermometer. Which property of a thermocouple is a major advantage? Now, its greater heat capacity, no. Its smaller temperature range, no again. Its quicker response time is the reason is uh, which is the reason why thermocouple is has a serious advantage here. So C would be the right option. A liquid in glass thermometer consists of a bulb containing a liquid which expands into a thin capillary tube. The liquid in the thermometer is replaced by the same volume of a different liquid that expands more for the same temperature rise. So that expands more for the same temperature rise. The length of the capillary tube remains the same. So how does the new thermometer compare with the old one? It has a greater sensitivity. Yes, it has a greater sensitivity because it expands more for the same temperature rise, but it has a smaller range. Why it has a smaller range? Because as it expands for a little temperature rise, suppose I give a temperature of 6 degrees C here, and this column moves to till this, then it will definitely have a smaller range compared to the earlier one, or sorry, compared to the earlier one. So it will definitely have a greater sensitivity, but its range would fall because now the liquid is expanding more quickly, so that we cannot distinguish between many temperatures. We cannot distinguish between the temperatures initially we used to distinguish between. So that means B is the right option. All other are incorrect. What is the unit? What is the usual symbol and what is the unit for heat capacity? So only the heat capacity, not the specific heat capacity. So the symbol is C, whereas the unit is joules per Kelvin or joules per centigrade, whichever you want. So A is the right option. Question number 18. Which law describes the arrangement of particles and the forces between the particles in a solid? Now the forces between particles is definitely stronger in solid. That's why the particles of the solid are much more intact than the liquid and the gases. Whereas the arrangement of particles is definitely more regular because now they are intact, they cannot move. So A is the right option. Question number 19. A wave in a sea collides with a cliff. A crest of the wave hits the cliff once every 6 seconds. So the frequency is 6 hertz. The horizontal distance between a crest and the adjacent trough of the wave is 4.5 meters. So that is the wavelength. So what is the speed of the wave? Now, mm, so the frequency is not 6 hertz. Sorry, once again. A crest of the wave hits the cliff once every 6 seconds. So it is only a one crest hitting. So when the trough also hits, so if the crest hits in 6 seconds, then the trough will take, then the trough then the crust and trough together will take 3 seconds to hit. So that means the frequency will be 1 by 3 seconds. The frequency will be 1 by 3 seconds. A crest and a trough will together take a time of 3 seconds. The difference in time is 3 seconds. That is frequency. So V is equal to f lambda by the wave equation. So 1 by 3 into 4.5. So that is 1.5 meters per second. V. So D is the right option. A sound wave refracts as it passes from air to water, which quantities change here. So frequency only depends on the number of vibrations. Frequency never changes. So we are only left with B. Speed does change. Speed and wavelength both decrease. So B is the right option. So it passes from air. So air is shallower. Now, sorry. Speed and wavelength both will increase because now it passes from shallower to denser medium. It is inverse. Okay. So B is the right option. An object is viewed through a thin converging lens. The diagram shows the path of two rays from the top of the object to an eye. How does the image compare with the object? Now, this is definitely a virtual image. First thing is that the eye is placed here. The eye is placed here. So image is being formed here. So it would be much larger image, highly magnified image. I had to say it is larger. It will not be smaller. This is completely wrong. You can definitely see this is much. This length here is much bigger than this. Now it is also upright because it was like this. Now it is inverse this, so that means it would be upright. So B would be the right option. A ray of white light enters a prism as shown. Which row is correct? So frequency of red light compared with blue light, the frequency of red light is always smaller. Whereas wave properties observed here is one is the refraction. So refraction definitely occurs here, and dispersion again. The white light is disintegrated into its seven colors. So both dispersion and refraction take place. So C is the right option. Question number 23. Which waves are not a part of the electromagnetic spectrum? Radio waves are, the television signals which are the IR rays also are. The ultrasonic waves are not because they are longitudinal in nature. So C is true. The ultraviolet rays are. So C is the right option. A man stands between two tall buildings P and Q. He is 50 meters from P and 200 meters from Q. He sounds a horn. He hears the echo from building P, first from building P, and 1 second later he hears the echo from building Q. What is the speed of sound calculated using this information? Now, as you can see in this diagram, the sound waves goes in this direction to the building Q, then returns back, and it is heard by him. Similarly, it goes in this direction and then returns back in this direction. So he now this person hears the echo from building P, 1 second earlier he hears the echo from building Q. So I can write that. So I can call time taken here as T1. Uh, so sorry, I will call this T2 and I can call this T1 simplification. So that is T2 minus T1, that is 1 second. So that is the first equation. Now, as you can see here, we know that S is equal to V times T. The sound is taking 100 meters here to travel velocity into T1. Sorry, velocity to T1. And so yes, this is true. It was taking, I will take this as velocity to T1. So 100 is equal to VT1. Similarly, it is taking 400 meters, which is velocity into T2. So 400 is equal to velocity into T2. So if I subtract VT2 from VT1, which is equal to 400 minus 100, and I take V common, T2 minus T1, which is 1 second, is equal to 300. So V into 1, that is 300. So velocity comes is 300 meters per second. Also, you can say that an approximate value of the sound can be calculated from this experiment. You cannot find out the exact you cannot find out the exact value of the sound by this experiment. So I will go with B. B is the right option. Question number 25. Sound travels at different speeds in each of the three states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. So which row shows where the sound travels the fastest and where the sound travels the slowest? So sound travels the fastest in solids, I know this, and they travel the slowest in gases. So that is D. D is the right option. What is the one use of the ultrasound? So cleaning jewelry is the primary one of the main uses of ultrasound. Fluorescent tubes, no. Optical fibers, no. Sunbeds, no. So A is the right option. Which material is used for the core of an electromagnet? So we always know that iron is used as a core for an electromagnet because it can easily be magnetized. So C is the right option. Two metal spheres are mounted on insulating stands. Sphere X is initially uncharged, sphere Y is initially positively charged. A metal rod held by an insulating handle is placed in contact with X and Y. So this is the insulating handle, so this is there is not any need of this portion, so I can remove this. What are the charges on X and Y after the rod is placed in contact with them? Sphere X is initially uncharged, sphere Y is positively charged. So the positive charge would be transferred from Y to X. So the both will become positively charged. There won't be complete transfer of positive charge from Y to X. There won't be. Some charge will still will still remain by, still remain on Y. Y will retain some of the positive charge, but it will expel most of its positive charge to X. So A is the right option. Question number 29. Which device involves the use of static electrical charges? So that is the photocopier machine, not a motor. A motor works on the DC current. DC motor. Transformer, no. Computer hard disk drive, no. So C is the right option. And question number 30. An initially uncharged copper rod is placed in a uniform electric field E, the rod is parallel to the field. Which diagram shows the charges induced on the rod? So an initially uncharged copper rod is placed in a uniform electric field. The rod is parallel to the field. So if it is initially uncharged, then after it will become charged, it will have two poles, the negative pole and the positive pole, and the electric field lines are always directed from positive poles to the negative poles, as shown in D, not as in C. In C, the direction of electric field is perpendicular to the negative pole. So this is wrong. A, B have only one terminal. D is true because D contains both positive and negative terminal. So D is the right option. Question number 39. Question number 31. Sorry. The diagram shows a simple electric circuit. Which row describes the charge on an electron and the direction of electron flow through the resistor? Now, the charge on an electron is negative, definitely. So C and D are incorrect. Whereas the direction of electron flow is opposite to the conventional current. The conventional current, which we say the positive charge current, flows in this direction, whereas the negative current, the electrons flow in this direction. So the direction of electron flow across the resistor would be from Y to X. So B is the right option. Question number 32. When a flash on a camera is used, a charge of 1.5 coulombs flows for 0.0030 seconds through the flash lamp. The average voltage across the flash lamp is 3600 volts. What is the electrical energy supplied to the lamp and what is the average power supplied? Now energy is work is equal to QV. So there is Q of 1.5. The voltage is 3600. So that is 5400. So A and B are incorrect. Whereas power is equal to VI, or power is equal to work done per unit time. So 5400 divided by 0.0030 second. So 5400 divided by 0.0030 second. So that is 1.8 into 10 raised to power 6 watts. So D is the right option. What is the unit of potential difference and which measuring instrument is used to measure PD? So the unit is voltage, which is joules per coulomb, and the instrument is the voltmeter. So D is the right option. The diagram shows four circuits. Each circuit contains 300 ohm resistors. Which circuit has the smallest total resistance? So first thing is that in series the resistance is simply added and the resistance increases. The total resistance increases in series. Whereas in parallel arrangement, all of the resistances are divided. So there is total lower amount of resistance in parallel arrangement as shown in C. B has the greatest, A A has then greatest, D has then the middlemost, and C has the lowest. So C is the right option. A metal kettle is plugged into a main socket. The plug contains a suitable fuse. The kettle's cable is damaged and the fuse blows. Why does the fuse blow? Now the metal kettle is plugged into the main socket. First of all, it contains a suitable fuse. The kettle's cable is damaged and the fuse blows. Why does the fuse blow? The bare earth wire in the cable touches the bare live wire. So the bare earth wire in the cable touches the bare live wire. So that's when the fuse might blow. The metal casing of the kettle touches the bare earth wire. This it already touches the bare earth wire, so that all the current is shifted to the earth. The bare neutral wire in the cable touches the bare earth wire. This is again incorrect. The live wire breaks without touching any other wire. The live wire breaks without touching any other wire. So this cannot happen logically. So when the bare earth wire in the cable touches the bare live wire, now the live wire will uh, the current from live wire will move to the earth wire, and as soon as the current starts to pass through the earth wire, the fuse will blow and the circuit will be disintegrated. So that's when the fuse will blow. A is the right option here. As a magnet is moved into a coil of wire as shown, there is a small positive reading on the sensitive ammeter. So weight change must increase the size of the reading. So weight change must increase the amount of the current induced here. So moving the opposite pole into the coil will not increase the size of the reading. Uh, it might change the polarity of the current. Pulling the magnet out of the coil will reduce the size of the reading, pushing the magnet in faster. So that will increase the number of magnetic lines being crossed, or the number of magnetic lines being passing through being passed through to the magnet. So this will increase the size of reading because the magnet now passes through a greater number of magnetic lines of the coil. So C is true. Unwinding some turns of the wire will decrease the size of the reading. So C is the right option. The diagram shows the circuit for a model power line with two transformers and a lamp at the output. What is the input voltage? So the input voltage here, how I can find this, that I can see that there are two transformers here. One is this transformer and one is this transformer. And if this, I call this 2, I call this 1, this is the second transformer, then this is the secondary coil, and this is the primary coil. This 24 volts is the secondary coil, and I will find the primary voltage here. So I know that Vp over Vs is equal to Np over Ns. So I can calculate the voltage which is totally present this this area, in this apparatus. So that will be Vp over 24, which is equal to 200, the value of Np 200 over 40. So if I put the values in the calculator, so the Vp is equal to 120. So there is a total of 120 voltage here. So now the secondary voltage is 120. So this is the secondary voltage, this is the primary voltage, this is the secondary number of coils, and this is the primary number of coils. Now I know again that Vp over Vs is equal to Ns over Np over Ns, sorry. So Vp over 120, that is Vs, is equal to 10 over 120, as you can see here. This is the primary coil, NP, this is the secondary coil. So the value of Vp is 120 divided by 120 multiplied 10. So that is Vp, oh sorry, by 100 here, 100 here, sorry, 100 here. So that is 12 volts. So Vp, the primary voltage here, is 12 volts. So C is your right option. Electrical power is transmitted by cables over long distances at very high voltages. What are the effects of using a high voltage transmission system? The power loss in the cables is very much low because of high voltages and the current in the cables. By Ohm's law, I know that voltage is directly proportional to current. So that means the current in the cables. Now the power loss in the cables is low. Now the voltage is high. The power remains same. P is equal to VI. Now I have increased the voltage, so I will have to decrease the current. The current in the cables is low. Remove the Ohm's law from here. So D is equal to, so question number 38, D is the right option, I guess. Yes, this is true. When the voltage is high, the current would be low because I know that V is proportional to I, but V is equal to IR. Now there is high voltage, means there is greater resistance. Greater resistance means low current. So D would be the right option. Question number 39. The diagram shows a beam of electrons about to enter a magnetic field. The magnetic field is directed into the page. What is the direction of the deflection of the electrons as they enter the magnetic field? So apply the Fleming left hand rule, FLHR. Then if you check by using your fingers, then it will come up the page. But this is incorrect. Why? Because it's a beam of electrons. What you are finding is for the positive charge, not for the negative charge. If you want to find for the negative charge, do the FLHR, do the Fleming's left hand rule, and then reverse the direction which you have spotted. So if it is up the page, then it simply its inverse is down the page. So D would be the right option. In Geiger-Marsden experiment, alpha particles are fired at a thin gold sheet. So most alpha particles pass straight through the thin gold sheet. A few are deflected. What can be deduced from this experiment? Now what I will deduce from this experiment, that only a smaller region of the atom consists of nucleus, which is completely or partially deflected. All the other is empty space. That means if this is the atom, then only this is the nucleus. This is the empty space all around. The nucleus is very small. A is the right option. So that's all for our today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Press the bell icon for upcoming videos and past papers. Goodbye and good night. Allah Hafiz.